General advice for documentation: use Greenshot. Like, genuinely, day one, install Greenshot. So much of my old documentation, I have like messy circles with numbers drawn, and it's just and I remember Profo saying, like, don't you have a tool to do this? Because like all the international students had like WeChat and just had this nice program installed. Greenshot, take nice screenshots. One thing that is huge and has always been, like, anytime I've ever done it, I've gotten like huge bonus points on my documentation, and I always recommend bold, very specific, like, action verbs. Sell what you're talking about with like nice bolding in your objective summaries, and look at references. I looked the best document I ever did up was my Fallout 4 deconstruction, and I just did it based looking at Isaiah and Rebecca's from C30 and C29. Honestly, just look at the past. You can see what works well. Follow it. Also, like, when you're getting past LD2, use Profo's templates. They're really, really good.
Documentation. Less is more. The professors read through a lot of documents. They don't need 6 paragraphs about what this gun does. Give them bullet points. Bullet points are your best friend. Use bullet points for every kind of list you can think of, and use tables. And use tables with bullet points. Bold your action words. That way the professors can skim through the paragraph quickly and see what it is basically about, and then if they need to read more, they can. But those bolded words give them an idea of like what the general paragraph is about. For example, the document says the player will walk through a force field door, encounter a turret and a combine soldier. You would highlight or bold force field, turret, and combine so that the stakeholder knows these are my action words. These are the ideas that will be explored throughout this document.
Yeah, for documentation, I see a lot of people early on, especially in Guildhall, fall into the pitfall of, okay, if the documentation is longer, then that means it is better because there is more information in it. That is not true. They go on and on in class about the 7 C's, and one of them is concise. So just because your LDD is 40 pages, it doesn't mean that it's better than the one that is 15 pages or 10 pages even. Because being able to present the information of this is what my level is about, this is what you have to do, in a way that can be read and understood is, I think, more important than just word vomiting on the page. Because, and this is pure speculation, but what we've been told in the industry is that sometimes you'll have 1-page LDDs, or even less than that. Sometimes you just have to pitch this in like a slide deck or something. So being able to condense all of the very important information, the necessary information, down into as palatable of a format as possible, I think is really important. So being able to present that in a way that can be understood quickly, and more importantly by the professors and by you later on, so you don't have to keep scrolling through 40 pages of documentation to find, oh, what was that one thing I wanted to add to the level? I think that's important.
When I do documentation, when I started, I tried to get like the big, like, high concept of what the level would be. Like, this is going to be a level in a train or something, or this is going to be a level in the sky. And I would try and get all of that down. But really what's most important is second to second, like from the start to the end, like you know exactly what's going to happen hypothetically to the player. Because if you've written down every like moment of gameplay, then when you start building, you have a reference for every single like thing you're going to have to do. When you're building these levels, you have to build everything that the player does. And so having documentation for all of that is really, really helpful. And it's not as much helpful whenever you just have like, I had an idea for like a swamp monster here, and then you're in the editor building it and you're like, well, now I don't know what that is. Like it's not very helpful. So getting specific with the documentation and like every thing that the player's doing is what you want to write down.
So one of the most important parts of level design is having good documentation, because from what we've heard in the industry, you'll make like this design for your level and then you'll hand it off to somebody, or vice versa. You'll be the one getting this design from the level to build in the editor. So it's really important to have like crystal clear documentation, communicate everything you want effectively. The parts that, for me, take the most time in documentation are the making the map itself, just thinking of the design, knowing what your gameplay is. So you'll do the skill progression chart thing where you break down almost like the second to second of what your player will experience in your game. And then the rest of it takes about the similar amount of time. My best advice for documentation is get started early and get feedback as soon as you can. Because you can hand in your first draft of the LDD as the level design document and just give it to professors, and then they're going to give you a bunch of feedback on it, and you're not going to have any iteration before you have to get started building your level. So even if you get like, okay, I just got my map done, send that to Profo, send it to your GAs just to get some form of feedback, then start working on your skill progression chart, send that to somebody, and just continually be in this process of getting frequent feedback and iteration on your stuff will really, really help you as you go forward.